piano de la cámara de seguridad. Entonces, a la izquierda no puedo y a la derecha es donde estaba antes. Estaba a la derecha. Me habéis dicho que me vaya a la izquierda. Estoy en la izquierda. También por eso. Vale, pero ¿dónde estaba antes? Aquí estoy bien entonces. Yo aquí a la derecha. Es que
¿Cómo? voy a intentar moverla a la derecha de donde.
everybody, and welcome along to Snetterton, and welcome to round 2 of the Ferrari Challenge UK here in Norfolk for the second round of the UK season. We've already been over at Paul Ricard, but returning to the UK for the remainder of this season. On the 300 layout this weekend, the 2.99 miles or 4.778 kilometre circuit awaits. We've already seen action this morning from qualifying. Now it's time to heat up race number 2, race number 1. So, as we mentioned, we'd already been to Paul Ricard here at Snetterton this weekend, the 2nd and 3rd of May. In just over 2 weeks' time, we head to Silverstone for round 3, then we go to Alton Park for round 4, Brands Hatch for round 5, and round out the Ferrari Challenge UK season at Donington Park on the 19th and 20th of September. We are being looked after by the weather this weekend, so thankfully Ferrari and the team have brought the weather over from Le Castellet, and it means that the drivers are going to get rather hot under the collar. The track temperature has risen by over 10 degrees since this morning. Air temperature has risen also up to 20 degrees, so it is basically tropical in comparison to what we are used to here in the UK. And the thing is, this circuit with long straights, heavy braking zones and tight infield sections, it is very well suited to the characteristics of the Ferrari 296 Challenge race cars. Let's have a little look at how the Snetterton 300 layout is formed. As we mentioned, 2.99 miles or 4.77 kilometres, 12 corners for the drivers to work their way through. 7 to the right, 5 to the left, and a good mix of slow and fast corners. You've got the long straights to take into account as well. And qualifying this morning proved that it's not necessarily the easiest circuit to get around, but expertly handled by our full grid of Challenge 296 drivers, both in the Trofeo Pirelli and the Copper Shell classes. Cars heading out onto the circuit for what are effectively installation laps, getting the Pirelli P0 tyres up to temperature. Also trying to work some temperature into the brakes, ready for the 30-minute plus 1 lap of racing that lies in wait. We have had some other on-track action in the interim as well. That was from the Club Challenge and the customer activity, all supported by Ferrari, Pirelli, Shell, and of course Puma as well, doing brilliant work to ensure that Ferrari customers are looked after this weekend. Heading round on to what is, I think they're now 2nd installation lap. We've already seen Darren Howell go through and by. Mike Dewhurst, who in the number 78 machine, of course, last season's Copper Shell champion. He's been moved up to Trofeo Pirelli, and this season he has got a bit of a name to make for himself. He's got already some good points on the board, looking to do more of the same. Speaking of points, coming into this weekend, Bradley Yates, representing Charles Hurst, leads the standings after a dominant opening weekend, securing 2 victories to establish an early advantage with 34 points. Behind him, Manuela Gosnap sits in 2nd place on 23, with Joseph Dean from Stratstone Colchester close behind on 19. In Copper Shell, debutant Christopher Baton and Grey Paul Nottingham heads the standings on 27 points, following a strong opening performance as Paul Ricard has put the car on pole for the first race of the weekend. The battle behind remains tightly contested, with Darren Howell, the JCT 600 leads, just 4 points adrift in 2nd, and Peter Hunter, who is unfortunately not here this weekend with Stratstone Manchester, sits in 3rd on 22. Of course, there have been bonus points awarded for pole positions already, so Gilbert Yates will pick up a bonus point. That will put him on to a season total of 13. So will remain in 5th place, but more importantly, it's a point that nobody else can take away from him. In terms of Christopher Baton, we already knew he was at the top of the standings. He's extended that lead margin yet further, so he was 4 points clear. He's now 5 with the pole position points picked up for race 1 here at Snetterton. Myself, Jack Werrell, will be guiding you through half the action. The other half goes the way of my co-commentator this weekend, Jack Mace.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here at Snetterton for this second round of the Ferrari Challenge UK season with Trofeo Pirelli and Copper Shell. We've already been treated to some superb action during practice and qualifying, and we're looking very much forward to this first race in absolutely resplendent weather.
Yeah, we are really being treated. I can see our trusty pit lane reporter and grid reporter Dave Richardson down there on the grid, ready to catch up with a number of our drivers. So as and when, David, please do feel free to jump in. As I can see, that grid is effectively formed.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
Challenge here in UK, and as is the case, we'll take walk through the bit of cars. I was just and Steve Dobb.
So unfortunately, the service down on the grid is rather patchy, but the grid is forming, and I have to say, Jack, these cars look absolutely fabulous in the Norfolk sun. Of course, it's brilliant to see the grid now really starting to pack out, and we are seeing these grids get larger and larger. Obviously, we've mentioned a little bit about the classes. We've mentioned Trofeo Pirelli and Copper Shell. There is also Copper Dealer as well. So as we mentioned, with a number of drivers, whether it be Stratstone Manchester, JCT 600 Leeds, or Maranello Sales, for example, they are all fighting for Copper Dealer points as well, coming into this weekend off the back of Paul Ricard. Charles Hurst lead the Copper Dealer Championship on 41 points, ahead of Grey Paul Nottingham on 26. Ineco and JCT 600 Leeds tied for third place on 22 points. Stratstone Manchester on 21, Stratstone Colchester on 18, and then it's HRO and Dick Lovett Swindon and Maranello Sales make up the rest. And it's very close, as you'd expect coming out of round one, but it will remain that way throughout the season. Such is the nature of Ferrari Challenge UK. We go to the best circuits in the UK with the best challenge race cars that are in existence at this point. And the support that we're already seeing, not only from those off circuit, but those on circuit, whether it be team members or drivers, or more importantly sponsors. For example, Pirelli, long-time partner of Ferrari, doing brilliant work with tyre development to ensure that these cars are as approachable as possible for maybe the newer driver, but as quick as possible, and really do stick to the road. The Pirelli P0 slick tyres on these cars, providing drivers with all the grip that they need. In terms of the classes, of course, the way to tell them apart, just at a quick glance, if you look at the FIA windscreen banner, if it is a red banner with white writing, that is a Trofeo Pirelli car. If it is a yellow banner with black writing, that means it's a Copper Shell car. You'll tend to see the Trofeo Pirellis towards the pointy end of the order, but that doesn't mean that Copper Shell are then just tailing off the end. We really start to see some inter-class rivalries form, and the quicker of the Copper Shell cars are really starting to apply that pressure onto Trofeo Pirelli now. For example, Mike Dewhurst, he's in a tricky position because it is quite a jump from Copper Shell to Trofeo Pirelli, but I feel like he's adapted really well. And the 296 Challenge car as well, obviously the first time that this car has been raced in anger in Ferrari Challenge UK, at least, the second season of the car racing globally. He's adapted well, but not only him, so have the drivers, and that shows that all that hard work that Ferrari and the partners have put in to get these cars ready are really, really approachable, and the drivers are loving it. Let's hear about what the drivers think with Dave Richardson down on the grid.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here in the sunshine down on the grid. As we can see, Steve Dobson is just about to get into the car and ready to go racing. Steve, good luck to you. It's great to see you back on the grid. We missed you in the south of France, friend. Alongside is perhaps one of the best supported teams in the Ferrari Challenge UK. This is Darren Howell, and a contingent of the Darren Howell fan club, which incidentally you could join as well. It's darrenhowell.fanclub.co.uk. No, I'm making all of that up, of course I am. It is just fantastic to see these cars back here in the UK, and the number 78 car, Dewhurst, he, by his own admission, he's qualifying where he wanted it to be. I'm going to see if I can have Ed Bridle now, just have a quick word, because by his own admission, Mike did not qualify quite where he wanted to be. Ed Bridle, driver coach to Mike Dewhurst, former Copper Shell champion, now of course Trofeo Pirelli driver. What went wrong with quali, Ed?
Nothing really. We only lost 5/10 what we done this morning.
So that's nothing, isn't it?
Not on a, well, it is, but not on a long lap. But yeah, we just made a couple of mistakes that cost us in the end. So the ideal lap time would have put us where we think we should have been, but just didn't quite do it. So we've got a long race. We'll make it up. Mike's very good in the race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think we'll make a few places.
He's a jolly good overtaker, isn't he? Good luck, Mike, and all the support with the family here as well. We know that you can overtake, and that's what you've got to do, Ed says. Yeah. It needs to be more than hopefully, friend. Right, we continue our way down then. So Mike Dewhurst there. Also here, delighted that Manuela Gosner, who of course has moved into the Ferrari Challenge here in the UK, rather than contesting in Europe, which is where she has had such a rich vein of form and has been a fantastic driver in Europe. I'm just going to make note of this. Well, Mrs. Manuela Gosner Serna-Giotto. It's very important that you get that surname in there because Giorgio Serna-Giotto, of course, husband to Manuela Gosner, is something of a fantastic racer in his own right. Now to the sharp end of this grid, where we find it's a bit of a Bradley takeover here, or is it? Because Gilbert is back and back with a vengeance. What we do is that for these drivers, the Yates father-son combo is going to be absolutely awesome. There's no question about it. Gilbert wants to be winning this. And I just note here that Dr. Jonathan Palmer, of course, from the MSV organisation. And once again, sir, we are delighted to be here at Snetterton. Is it some special ability that you have to bring us this weather today?
Well, it's fantastic, isn't it? I think I've come from Donington, where there's been a big historic meeting, and I'm down to Brands, where I think it's going to be a bit rainy. But here at Snetterton, actually, this is our driest circuit of all of the circuits in the MSV group. And what a great arena. It really could be Italy, couldn't it, here now, with the weather?
It really could, couldn't it? Yes, and there's an East Anglian. I'm delighted that it's the sunshine is here. Thank you for talking to us very much. So there we are. The scene is set. The Richard Mills safety car, of course, will lead these cars away on the formation lap. It's Gilbert Yates, Bradley Yates, side by side on the front row of the grid. It's going to be an awesome race, and right now I'm going to cross back to the two jacks that we have in our commentary studio, who will bring you all the action of the race one this weekend, Ferrari Challenge UK at Snetterton.
Thank you, Dave. Great to see everybody down there on the grid, ready to get the first race of the weekend underway. Of course, everybody still on the high from Paul Ricard, and it's nice to say the weather has followed suit. Plenty of compliments go the way of Ferrari for just the way that they have presented the cars off the back of what has been a very busy couple of weeks for them and co. But every car looks absolutely fabulous. Turned out brilliantly, as you have come to expect over the previous seasons, and of course the 296 no exception to a good looking car. The 488 Challenge Evo, the 488 prior to that even, really started that uphill trend of peak performance, and we're seeing that with more and more innovation being put in, not only by Ferrari, but as we say, with Pirelli and Shell, of course, all of these cars running Shell V power. Really lend themselves to producing the massive brake horsepower number of 690 brake horsepower these cars produce, and it's all well and good, but to have that Pirelli tyre patch on the road, it means that they can utilise all of it as well, Jack, and it's going to be an exciting weekend from what we've seen from not only free practice but qualifying also. We're in for a treat.
We've got a lot of cars very closely in the field, going from looking at the front of the Copper Shell field, for example, from 6th down to about 10th, they were separated by less than a second during qualifying, and it is absolutely testament to Ferrari and the technical partners such as Pirelli and Shell that they've been able to take the 488 Challenge of the previous generation that they drove here at Snetterton. The last time was 2 years ago, and they've managed to get the times down by about 5 seconds already.
Yeah, it's great to see that these innovations and changes really do equal a big change in performance, and that just continues to move forward as we look towards the grid. We're about to go racing. So the grid, as we say, is formed. Safety car at the head of affairs as all of the team members and team staff have left the grid. The cars now get themselves underway as the safety car leads them on the first green flag lap of the weekend. We will get an opportunity to guide you through the way in which they line up. ahead of race number 1. So 30 minutes and 1 lap awaits. It's Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates that line up on that front row of the grid, both representing Charles Hurst. It's then going to be Joseph Dean for Stratstone Colchester lining up alongside. It's then going to be the number 93 machine of Manuela Gottsner. She will line up in 4th place ahead of Mike Dewhurst. You can see the pole time for today set by Gilbert Yates earlier on this morning, that 1 minute 47, absolutely flying. Joseph Dean will line up alongside on row 2. Row 3 is made up of Mike Dewhurst and Christopher Baton, your Copper Shell pole sitter. It's then going to be Darren Howell and Steve Dobson on row number 4. Row 5 made up of Andrea Seminari and William Bolster. And row 6, it's Sean Rann and John Turner. A stacked grid and an exciting race on the way, Jack Mace.
Very much looking forward to it. Like I said earlier, it was so close at the front end of the Copper Shell. That is where you're going to see some phenomenal battling. But that fight at the front between the two Yateses, you've got Gilbert and Bradley, who are going to be very close on pace. It's great to see the resurgence of Gilbert Yates after what was a slightly more difficult Paul Ricard round. But we've taken the weather from the vineyards of Le Castellet and we've brought it here to Snetterton, and hopefully it's going to be an absolute scorcher on the circuit as well.
It will be indeed. These Pirelli P0s will be put through their paces, but you know full well that they are up to the job given what we've seen in qualifying. So the drivers are just working their way along the Bentley Straight. Who are you side by side into turn 1, father and son? It's not necessarily last of the late breakers really there, is it? It's going to be who is willing to sort of drop in behind the other. I would say Gilbert would probably go for discretion, but then again, he doesn't want to show Bradley that he can win 3 races in a row. And
he's got some pace to make. He's got some points to make up in the standings as well. There's less incentive for him to be the last of the late. Sorry, there's more incentive for him to be the last of the late breakers compared to Bradley. Bradley's got a position now in the championship in Trofeo Pirelli to potentially. He's not going to be willingly sitting behind, but discretion is the better part of valor sometimes, and I would imagine going through to turn 1, Gilbert Yates was fastest in qualifying. Unless he gets a subpar start, I don't see how he doesn't lead into turn 1.
All will be revealed as the field is working its way through the final corner at Murray's. Before we get this race underway, the safety car will peel its way right in just a few moments' time. It does so now, and it's down to Gilbert Yates to control the pace of the field as the red lights go on. As soon as the red lights go out, which will happen any moment now, out the lights go over the start-finish line, and for the first time this season in the UK, Ferrari Challenge UK gets underway. It is going to be Gilbert Yates that just about leads the field in towards turn 1. So through Ritchie's they go on the run-up towards Wilson. Gilbert Yates leads from Bradley Yates. Hard on the brakes. You can see the cars squirming around as the drivers are making use of every ounce of braking force available to them. They then have the short uphill and then back downhill stretch in towards Palmer. Bradley Yates, he's now playing catch-up. He's going to be chasing Father Gilbert over the next sort of 30 minutes or so. On the brakes once more towards Agostini. The field behind gets closer still. It was a good start from Mike Dewhurst, picking up a position nice and early. He's trying to make a name for himself since the move up into Trofeo Pirelli, but Gilbert Yates leads from Bradley Yates. It's then Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst. Manuela Gottsner remains in 5th place, but a good start has to be made and has been made by Christopher Baton. Obviously, he's on pole position in Copper Shell. He's the championship leader. He wants to keep tabs on what's going on in Trofeo Pirelli because it's only going that way for him.
And he's doing a good job so far. He was within half a second at the end of the first sector. It was a good start as well from Joseph Dean, who's managed to hold on to the two Yateses really well. There's a look there from the inside by Baton on Manuela Gottsner, not pulling it off this time, electing to go again a bit later, earlier on the brakes into Brundle. They come through Coram now. This is the battle for P5 overall. Baton is already starting to pull away a bit from Sean Rann and might be thinking, oh, if I can get past Manuela here, that'll give me a really good opportunity to cement the lead in the Copper Shell battle. They come through the final corner for the first time. The leaders just coming past the start-finish line outside of the commentary box. It's a close gap out the front. It's less than a second between the two Yateses. But here comes Baton, trying to look for a move around Gottsner.
So they're running towards turn 1. Chris Baton remains in 6th place at the moment, but is starting to apply that pressure even more so onto Manuela Gosner. She's doing a brilliant job of just fending off that attention for now, keeping that focus forward, trying to chase down Mike Dewhurst once again. But Gilbert Yates making use of every inch of grip that he can get out of those fabulous Pirelli P0s. And he's starting to pull a little bit of a margin. Last time through, set the fastest lap of the race. This time has once again gone quicker in Sector 1, quicker than anybody else has gone so far. The lead gap out to 1 second now over Bradley Yates. Charles Hurst are going to be absolutely loving this, seeing that both Gilbert and Bradley are 1-2 at the moment. Before we work our way through, Oggies towards Williams on the brakes. Again, pitches the car in, being careful not to run out onto those track limits. That is where one of the track limits pins are. They do have the pressure plate there, ready to pick up anybody that seems to be transgressing the circuit limits, but Gilbert Yates doing everything he needs to at the moment to pull away. I would almost say Bradley Yates is in danger of falling into the clutches of Joseph Dean. A fastest Sector 2 once again from Gilbert Yates, as you'd somewhat expect. Chris Baton keeping that pressure onto Manuela Gosner. Sean Ran in 7th place, 2nd in Copper Shell. Darren Howell rounds out your current top 3 in Copper Shell before we get back to Steve Dobson. Sat there in 9th overall, 4th in Copper Shell, and rounding out your top 10. It is the number 6 machine of Andrea Seminari. But over the start-finish line in a few moments' time, Gilbert Yates. This has been 2 solid laps from Gilbert Yates. He's really starting to extend that lead margin. Goes through, breaks the beam, the lead gap, 2 seconds.
It was a really good 2nd and 3rd sector from Gilbert Yates on that 2nd lap. He's really bridged the gap now to just over 2 seconds ahead of his son Bradley. Joseph Dean has been doing well. He was quicker in the 2nd sector than Bradley up ahead, in a very good spot at the moment for that podium placing, but he's going to be wanting a little bit more. He did finish in 2nd place in the 2nd race back at Le Castellet, and he's going to be hungry now to keep that step on the podium. There is Bradley Yates on our screen coming through Palmer. He's losing a little bit of time in the 1st sector again to Gilbert. Only a couple of tenths, but it's still enough. It's still enough for the car behind him. Joseph Dean going through the hairpin. Here's another look at the race start. It was a very clean getaway, as expected, from the 2 Yates in 1st and 2nd. Gilbert held the inside line. It was an aggressive start as well from Mike Dewhurst, managing to get his way through up into P4. Really good getaway that he made from the start. And he managed to cement that position in 4th in Trofeo Pirelli and overall by the time that they got to the hairpin. It was a defensive line from Gilbert Yates that held the position, and since then he's just been able to pull away out in front.
Yeah, continuing to do so this time. A 1:49.515, the fastest lap of the race so far, set by race leader Gilbert Yates. Bradley Yates is doing what he can to respond, setting personal best sectors, but just struggling to keep tabs with last season's Trofeo Pirelli champion. Of course, his sights potentially get for Gilbert Yates. Is he now looking for the step to Ferrari Challenge Europe? There's, of course, Finale Mondiale at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, come the end of this season. That is always a fabulous event for all involved. But Gilbert Yates over the start-finish line once again. Yet another fastest lap of the race. All that time was found in Sector 1, because Sectors 2 and 3, he didn't go quicker. Sector 1, purple sector, 1:49.473. Fasty still for our race leader. Bradley Yates now 3 seconds adrift. Joseph Dean only 1.5 seconds away now from Bradley in 2nd place, so that could start to heat up as the race wears on. Mike Dewhurst has started to pull away from Manuela Gosner. In terms of Chris Baton, he's only 7 tenths adrift of the 5th place Trofeo Pirelli placed car of Manuela Gosner. Sean Ran is starting to fall into the clutches more and more of Darren Howell. There was only 2 tenths separating them as they ran towards turn 1. And to the eye, I would almost say that Steve Dobson isn't far away at all. Yes, within a second, absolutely. The timing screen confirms. As for Gilbert Yates, doing everything he needs to, managing his fuel as best as possible, the Shell V-Power, and also managing his Pirelli P0s as best as he can, just to make sure that that car will remain in its optimal window for the entirety of the race. But both class leaders with their respective fastest laps of the race last time by. That's exactly what you need to do in a position like this. Of course, temperature will slowly start to play an effect, I think, more on the drivers than the car, so they do have to manage that. Mike Dewhurst, whilst he's fallen away from Joseph Dean, he's got to be careful, because one mistake, Manuela Gosner's there, but even more so, so's Chris Baton.
Chris Baton, his debut season in the Ferrari Challenge UK series. He's in the Copper Shell, leading fairly comfortably at the moment. A little bit further back, you can see a good few cars in sequence. A really good battle there for second place between it's Sean Brown, Howell, Dobson, Seminar and Bolster, all really involved in that battle for second in Copper Shell. Here is the leader, Christopher Baton in Copper Shell, putting a lot of pressure onto Manuela Gosner, and Mike Dewhurst, as Jack Worrell mentioned, is really not too far up the road either. Good exit out of the final corner, getting that power down. He's going to be using as much of the slipstream as he can now to get onto the back of Gosner. Not going to be able to get close enough for an attack on this occasion. As he came across the line, new personal best, second and third sector. New personal best lap of the race for Manuela Gosner. He's doing well. There's a potential overtake down into turn one. It's not happened on this occasion, though. There was a battle there between, I think that was Howell and Dobson.
Yeah, it was Sean Rand and Darren Howell really starting to apply that pressure. There was a big look to the inside, as you said, Jack, but just couldn't quite get the car squared away on the running towards turn one. But of course, on the dirty line, on the unpolished line, on a very hot racing surface, all of a sudden things can become something more of a challenge in the 296 Challenge car. On the run out of Agostini, Chris Baton showing us how to pilot one of these brilliant pieces of machinery, really starting to get confident behind the wheel is Chris Baton. Closing in on Manuela Gosner. There is a green flag on the exit of Palmer, which means there has been maybe something of an excursion by one of the drivers, but all has been cleared away and drivers continue on. Gilbert Yates with a commanding lead, really starting to disappear up the road from Bradley Yates. Followed then by Joseph Dean. Mike Dewhurst has got to be careful here because he's being reeled back in by Manuela Gosner, and she's starting to apply that pressure. And I think in doing that, you can see she's pulling away from Chris Baton. The eyes are off the mirrors now and purely out the windscreen.
She's getting more laps under her belt. Of course, she's come over from Ferrari Challenge Europe. This is going to be one of her first times here at the Snetterton circuit. So as she gets more laps, she'll get more and more used to this circuit, and it's already playing into her hands. The warmer temperatures also potentially playing into her favour. She's got a good exit out of the final corner this time, and the gap is visibly closing in that battle for fourth place. Dewhurst is being pulled in that time by, it was about a few tenths of a second closer. There it is, yeah, 2/10 of a second closer on that previous lap. So Mike Dewhurst he's going to have to keep an eye on his mirrors here.
He is over the next couple of laps. Obviously, we're only 10 minutes in, so we've still got 20 minutes to go, plus the extra lap once the time on the clock has expired. But Mike Dewhurst just washing slightly wide of the apex at Palmer, so continuing to push on, but doing everything that he needs to. Of course, newly promoted Trofeo Pirelli driver, so there is an added level of pressure there, but he is doing so with valour. However, much later on the brakes is Manuela Gosner. She's really starting to apply that pressure. You can see Chris Baton, I think, is just struggling to keep tabs at the moment, and that's because he will be watching this as well. What a brilliant spectacle to see whilst out there on circuit. You want to be fighting for the positions, but you're in a comfortable class lead, and you're watching a brilliant battle between two Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Onto the Bentley straight they will go once again, continuing to push on. Darren Howell, as we've said over the previous couple of laps, is looking to go a step higher on the Copper Shell podium. But he's got a bit more work to do. He's still applying that pressure onto Sean Rand, but the overtaking opportunities he's been looking for at the moment just haven't quite presented themselves. Much closer again. This trio are really starting to close in. Manuela Gosner, a flash of the lights there, and Mike Dewhurst goes around. Unfortunately, on the exit of the bomb hole, so a small mistake. However, he will return to the circuit with vengeance and push on. He just needs to get himself back in that window, which he will do so easily in the 296 Challenge car, get those Pirelli P0s cleaned off, and back on the road goes Mike Dewhurst. He will be pushing on once again. The P0s won't take long at all to get cleaned away, but unfortunately for him, Manuela Gosner will inherit fourth, and it will be Chris Baton that will inherit fifth. Just slightly too early on the power, potentially. 690 brake horsepower. Mike Dewhurst just caught out slightly, but will continue on. Brilliant work from him to get that car squared away. And the Challenge car, nice and easy to spin back around. Away he goes.
He's only lost a couple of positions as well. Yep. He'll get back to speed quite quickly. Just the undulation of bomb hole there, potentially putting him off, as well as the increased amount of pressure that was coming from behind from from Manuela Gosner and Christopher Baton. Now we're starting to see some good times from Gosner and Baton. They were going quicker on that last lap when they had Dewhurst out in front, and now Gosner has got an opportunity to pull away a bit, not massively from Christopher Baton. Baton really acclimatising himself well in the Ferrari Challenge UK, comfortably in the lead of the Copper Shell category right now. Here is our leader though, Gilbert Yates, 4.3 seconds to the good at the end of the last timing line, and now that's already gone up to 4.5. He's doing a phenomenal job out in front, very comfortable through bottom hole this time. As they come into Coram, he's really back into the rhythm, it feels like. The Castellet was a slightly more difficult event, but he's come here with a lot of fire and a lot of vigour to get back towards the front, and he's doing a great job. Coming out of Murray's there for the 7th time, coming across the line. He had a personal best in the first sector. It's not quite a new purple lap this time, but he's still going quicker than Bradley Yates behind. Gap now up to 4.8.
4.8 seconds, the lead gap. Joseph Dean through and past the start-finish line, continuing to tick those laps away. The Pirelli P0s with little to no degradation means that he can lap consistently, and effectively the cars are only getting quicker as the Shell V-Power burns away. It means that that car will just get quicker, not only his but all of the cars around him. Darren Howell continuing to apply that pressure onto Sean Rown over the start-finish line, nose to tail. There's a look to the inside by Darren Howell, fills the mirrors but not on this occasion, biding his time. There's still 16.5 minutes plus that extra lap remaining, so he's not exactly challenged for time yet. When you look at the previous lap, you can see that Sean Rown just that little bit quicker on that occasion, but Darren Howell really applying the pressure. The car squirms under power on the exit of Wilson, but they have to be careful, because if they continue to battle, Steve Dobson is absolutely on their tail, ready to strike should anything happen, and Will Bolster, don't rule him out, he's just behind.
Sean Rown is using absolutely all of the circuit, and there on the inside, Dwight Howell went for a move. It didn't quite come off, and that's allowed Dobson to take the opportunity that was presented to him. Dobson and Bolster find their way through. The two other cars of Sean Rown, and it is Darren Howell get back on circuit. We'll have another look at that incident. Darren Howell was looking for the move on the inside of Sean Rown. He'd been behind for a few laps, got a bit too late on the brakes, but the cars, they go around. It allows Dobson and Bolster through, but they get back going without any major dramas. Just a couple of places lost for the two of them. I'm sure they'll be back racing very shortly.
Yeah, back racing effectively straight away. Got the cars pointing the right way, and away they went. The Ferrari 296 Challenge car really lending itself to some incredibly close racing. Still looking fabulous in the May sunshine down here in Norfolk. Gilbert Yates continues to lead the way as the lead gap 5.4 seconds. Bradley Yates that little bit quicker on the lap prior. Joseph Dean remains in 3rd place. He's continuing to tick the laps in his book. Manuela Gosner in 4th place. Chris Baton really starting to show how quick he is in one of these 296 Challenge cars. Over the start-finish line, we've got a brilliant battle in Copper Shell. That is the Steve Dobson, William Bolster battle. Of course, that's effectively ignited itself through Sean Rown and Darren Howell's battle. It means that these two have now picked up that place and are starting to fight away for the final 2 steps on the Copper Shell podium.
It looks like Bolster has been bolstered by the new podium position that he finds himself in. He was quicker last time by about half a second than Dobson ahead of him, and that was just through the last couple of sectors. So now there's an opportunity. These two are on the 2nd and 3rd steps of the rostrum at the moment for the Copper Shell category, but there's an opportunity here for the Irishman to get up onto that 2nd step if he's able to just keep applying the pressure ahead to Steve Dobson. You mentioned Christopher Baton. He's taken this like a duck to water. He's been absolutely superb out in front, and he is still keeping tabs on Manuela Gosner, someone with more experience in the series, someone who's come over from the European side of things, and he's still within a couple of seconds of her.
Yeah, Chris Baton doing a brilliant job, and that again lends itself to all of the hard work done at Maranello to produce the 296 Challenge car in conjunction with Pirelli and Shell to produce a car which is very, very quick but very approachable as well, and it means that some brilliant lap times can be extracted from the off. Over the start-finish line, we've just seen Joseph Dean go. However, this battle in Copper Shell is really starting to open up, unfortunately. Steve Dobson, however, this is the point in the race. This is the turning point. We're now effectively at the halfway point. Granted, that time has elapsed, more than half the time have elapsed, but you've got that extra lap still to go beyond that. So from this point, do you start managing the race, or do you continue to push? The car will allow you to do that. There will be very little fall off between now and the end of the race, but I feel like Steve Dobson, what he's done is just gone, let's ignore those rear view mirrors and just drive away. And William Bolster maybe not quite as quick on the uptake on this occasion. Sean Rann is still giving chase. As for Darren Howell, he's got a bit of work to do. He will have to close in once more. This time it will be Andrea Seminara that he'll be chasing down, as Andrea has managed to pick his way through and past. As for our race leader, 7 seconds into the lead, Gilbert Yates. That is, as you said, returning with a vengeance. Bradley Yates won the opening 2 races of the season, and Gilbert just let his son know how to do it.
I think he's taken that philosophy that you mentioned of just push the whole way. Drive within your comfort zone, and if your comfort zone happens to be consistently the fastest man on track, then just keep going for that. The lead up to 7.2 seconds at the last timing being. Here is the man who is trying to give chase in Bradley Yates. As you said, he's won the first 2 races of the year back at Le Castellet. But here in Norfolk, it is a bit of a story. The weather's very similar. Wonderful sunshine, resplendent temperatures, and it's just perfect conditions for racing. But it is this time, it is Gilbert Yates who's making the most of it. We have 11.5 minutes plus the extra lap to go. And look down the field, the Dobson and Bolster battle is closing up a little bit once again. Bolster trying to get back onto the back of Dobson for second place in Copper Shell.
Dobson will continue to push on. Darren Howell returns to the circuit after a brief spell in the pit lane. I'm not sure whether Dave Richardson managed to pick out exactly why there was a brief appearance, but all is well as he's returned to the circuit. Gilbert Yates through Hamilton, and it's not just he makes it look easy. The 296 Challenge car effectively does, joined with those Pirelli P0s, but Gilbert Yates with handfuls of talent just continues to extend that lead margin up to 8.1 seconds now. Gilbert Yates clear of Bradley Yates. Joseph Dean running around in 3rd place, doing a brilliant job holding on to 3rd in Trofeo Pirelli class. Chris Baton, massively impressive, leading the way in Copper Shell, but going off the performance at Le Castellet, it proves it wasn't a fluke, and there was no doubt in my mind. Brilliant work from Chris Baton. Darren Howell returned to the circuit, currently 12th place overall, 5th in Copper Shell, 7th in Copper Shell class, pardon me. But Darren Howell, for him, this is a case of picking up those points that are still up for grabs. On the brakes in towards Agostini, Darren Howell with a look to the inside. Not necessarily what had been planned for either himself or Sean Rann, but both rejoined the circuit and got their race back underway. Darren Howell now has Mike Dewhurst starting to breathe down his neck. Of course, that will be lapped traffic for Mike Dewhurst to contend, but given where Mike is in comparison to the cars around him, he can afford just to bide his time and get past when's most comfortable.
He's got a gap of 6 seconds behind him to Steve Dobson in the overall standings. That would be 6th and 7th on circuit, so he's got a little bit of time. He doesn't need to rush this. He can I wouldn't necessarily say do it at his own leisure, but if he keeps up the consistent pace that he's been able to show, then there's an opportunity, then he should be okay. The gap is closing on the circuit. I believe that is the battle between Gosner and the Copper Shell leader, Christopher Baton, the Greypool Nottingham driver, just really doing a superb job acclimatising to this machinery and to this championship. And he's now brought the gap back down within a second. He was about 0.6 quicker on that last lap alone than Manuela.
Yeah, Chris Baton really starting to push on as the race wears on. Gilbert Yates putting all of the knowledge that he has received and the tutoring from Josh Rowledge means that he will continue to pull away in the lead of this race. All of the drivers get effectively a pro to aid in their uptake of lap time throughout the weekend. So Gilbert Yates being joined by Josh Rowledge. Bradley Yates has got Benny Simerson to help him through this weekend. Joe Dean has got Aston Miller. Chatting to Aston earlier on, said that both him and the car are gelling very well indeed. Thank you to the support of Ferrari, Pirelli and Shell, starting to just get quicker and quicker as not only the weekend but the season wears on. As for Mike Dewhurst, we've seen a masterful drive so far in this race. He's got Ed Bridle. We heard from Ed down on the grid, and those two working very well together and have done so over the previous couple of seasons. Keeping an eye on Chris Baton in the all-orange machine on the run in towards Cora. If anything, they're getting closer still. For Manuela Gosner, she might need to focus that little bit more on that rear view mirror, or do the opposite, focus out the windscreen and try and drive away.
I think she needs to drive away because that last lap in the first couple of sectors, Christopher Baton was half a second quicker, and in the third sector, very much a response from Manuela Gosner, bridging that gap a little bit by a couple of tenths. This is the on-track battle. It's fourth place overall. He's the closest on circuit right now. Another close one, still that battle for second place in Copper Shell between Dobson and Bolster. But here in the battle for P4 in our view right now, it's Christopher Baton seems to have got the technical section in sector 1 down to a T. And the first two sectors, both very technical. It's that third sector that relies a little bit more on the medium speed, and that is where Manuela Gosner seems to be exhibiting her own strengths in comparison to the rookie to this series. I think it's fair to say it's his debut season, but he's still showing a very, very good account of himself.
He is indeed. Gilbert Yates is still leading the way by quite some margin, but those battles elsewhere throughout the order really aren't cooling down in this heat, and we're starting to see some drivers either fall away from the car they're chasing, but into then the clutches of another, and it really pushes home the point that Ferrari Challenge racing can be some of the closest you'll ever see.
It is, especially this battle for fourth illustrates that very well. We've been racing now for 24 minutes, and the gap is still about 0.6 of a second between them. And we mentioned the temperature. I don't know about you, I'm sweating up here in the commentary box, and we've got a nice aircon. The fact that these drivers are able to keep this level of performance going so consistently for this period of time in what will be higher temperatures than I'm having to deal with right now, it just goes to show how well they are performing out there on the circuit.
Yeah, not only them, but the cars and the tyres, the cars themselves, but also the tyres. Some brilliant innovations and new technologies being introduced and used effectively by Pirelli to produce these fabulous P0s bolted onto the 296 Challenge car. It means that they can run around at optimal pace and have no doubt that the tyres will be at peak performance throughout this race. Gilbert Yates leads the way from Bradley Yates with a 11.5 second lead. Joseph Dean further back from there in third place. Manuela Gosner holding on to fourth place overall and fourth in Trofeo Pirelli. However, has the Copper Shell race leader, Chris Baton, starting to apply that pressure. Mike Dewhurst, sixth overall, fifth in Trofeo Pirelli. And then for second and third in Copper Shell, seventh and eighth overall, it's anyone's guess because Steve Dobson and William Bolster really starting to fight away. William Bolster, the previous lap not necessarily in the window for which he would like. It means that the cars up the road have just started to extend a bit of a margin. But back to the battle for fourth and fifth overall, Manuela Gosner. She's got to be careful here because Chris Baton is just keeping that steady amount of pressure there. There has been no mistakes from either.
No mistakes from either of them on the circuit, not by any stretch. Christopher Baton continuing to apply that pressure, putting the brakes on late as he wants into Brundle, getting the car stopped in time for Nelson. It is this third sector, though, that Manuela Gosner appears to have been stronger throughout the course of the race. But the gap at the timing line at the end of sector 2 was just 0.4 of a second between these two. So we've got just under 4 minutes and the extra lap left to go. Still out in front is Gilbert Yates. He leads by 12 seconds now ahead of Bradley Yates. Joseph Dean in the number 12 Stratton Colchester car is in third place in Trofeo Pirelli and overall. But here, past the start-finish line and past the commentary box, the battle for fourth between Manuela Gostner and Christopher Baton overall is what's really, really driving us along right now.
Yeah, they are really pushing on, and Chris Baton, you could see him using every inch of Snetterton circuit available to him, and the Pirelli's performing brilliantly well, not only on the circuit but even onto the curbs as well. Complete trust not only in the 296 Challenge car but the Pirelli P0s as well. Gilbert Yates, as he appears through the heat haze into clearer vision, on the brakes in towards Brundle and then the reprofiled Nelson. Just nibbling at the curb on the way in and on the way out. The car looks so composed, so stable as he works his way through the bomb hole. Gilbert Yates, drawing upon years of experience in Ferrari machinery, he's doing more than enough at the front. He doesn't necessarily need to keep pushing, but trying to tell Gilbert to stop pushing, it's just not going to work, and he knows that's the thing. He knows the tyres and the car can do it, so absolutely, why not? The team watching on down there in the garage. And for Charles Hurst, so far this weekend, it's been a very strong showing.
First and second in the order right now for the Charles Hurst dealer team. They're doing a superb job, as you mentioned, out in front of the field. We look back to the battle for P4 between Manuela Gostner and Christopher Baton. It's the one that's been, it's less than half a second between the pair of them at this point. We've got the intervals showing on the screen there on the left side to give us an indication of just how close these two have been running. It's been that gap for the duration, at least the last 10-12 minutes of this race. They come through Murray's for what will be I would imagine third to last time. Still got a couple of laps racing left for them. Here is Joseph Dean, currently in third place. He has been very consistent, wonderfully consistent for this third place at the moment. His last lap of 1 minute 52.5. He's been lapping around that area for the last 10 minutes or so, but it's just been building that gap ahead to the cars behind. Whilst Manuela Gostner and Christopher Baton have been battling, Joseph Dean here has been doing a phenomenal job just securing that third place on the rostrum in the Trofeo Pirelli and overall in the Ferrari Challenge UK Championship second round, first race.
Yeah, you have to say Joseph Dean, whilst we've not seen massive amounts of him, that is a good thing. Him and Aston Miller working very well together. He has really driven a very clever race here. Whilst he may be in an opening gap, he's just been focusing on hitting his marks, keeping it consistent, making the absolute most out of the Pirelli P0s, and like you say, that consistency is what is going to keep him on the podium and potentially even a step or so higher when we get into the racing tomorrow, and he'll be learning as much about the car and the circuit today as he can to apply tomorrow. As for John Turner in the number 88 machine for Stratton Manchester, you pointed out that livery earlier. Very pretty, very unique livery, working its way through Coram now, on the brakes in towards the final corner. It's great to have John with us this weekend and throughout the season, and that's the one thing that I've overheard a couple of times in the paddock. His acceleration to the point of not only ability but lap time wise has been very impressive. He's really getting up to speed and apparently is showing signs of not slowing down. He will just continue to get faster, the pairing between him and that 296 Challenge car.
It's excellent news. He's acclimatising himself very well, continuing to do so. He's brought a phenomenal livery onto this grid. It stood out to me when I first saw it just before it went out in practice this morning. Wonderful work by everyone involved in the Stratton Manchester team. And from John Turner himself. We've hit 0-0-0-0 on the timing, and that means that we are on to our final lap now, I would imagine. Gilbert Yates out in front, just looking to see where he is. There's Joseph Dean, just passing on the inside of John Turner for what will be the last time. There is Gilbert Yates. He is now coming through Nelson and into the final sector. So it's been a great race for everyone involved so far. We'll just wait to see if it is the checkered flag this time, or if it is next time. I believe it will be next time by that will be the final lap. We are on the penultimate lap right now. There's a few cars just passing underneath our commentary box while I keep an eye out for Gilbert Yates. Here he comes through Coram. Sorry, he comes down the the centre straight now, begins his final lap of the race.
Yeah, brilliant drive from Gilbert Yates and the Charles Hurst team so far. On to the final lap of the race goes Gilbert Yates. Bradley Yates will follow suit in around about 14 seconds time. There he goes over the start finish line. 14 seconds almost exactly. It's like I've done that before. Brilliant work by Bradley Yates. Joseph Dean not that far away. He's just on the brakes in towards the final corner now. But for Gilbert Yates, what a brilliant opening race to this weekend. And whilst the start of the campaign maybe didn't go to his personal and his team plans, the bounce back has been absolutely fabulous. Bradley Yates was flying the banner for Charles Hurst at Paul Ricard, and Gilbert Yates has taken over that honour this weekend, and you can just see the commitment that Gilbert still has. It shows that very little tyre life has disappeared from those Pirelli P0s, whilst the car will continue to get lighter as the Shell V-Power burns away. You mentioned heat as well, of course. Drivers having to contend with that. The Puma race suits, which these guys are using, they are optimised to keep sort of driver temperature as low as possible to maximise the performance. That is the lengths that Puma go to work with Ferrari and maximise the performance of their drivers, whilst their cars, tyres and fuel all do the same. Through the bomb hold for the final time, Gilbert Yates with a commanding lead in towards Coram. And what a way to kick off what is effectively the first UK round of Ferrari Challenge UK. Just nibbling at the grass on the inside of Coram, on the brakes, down through the gearbox, and then fires his way out of the final corner for the final time. Race 1 of Ferrari Challenge UK Round 2 here at Snetterton goes the way of Gilbert Yates. He takes the win in race number 1 of the weekend. A lights to flag victory, pole, fastest lap, and a win. A clean sweep for Gilbert Yates. Bradley Yates through the final corner once more. He sees the checkered flag and flies through to take home second place. It's a Charles Hurst 1-2. You cannot ask for more. Through the final corner in a few moments' time, we will also see Joseph Dean. But what a brilliant performance from the Grey Paul Nottingham-backed number 81 machine, Christopher Baton. That is definitely a turn up for the books, isn't it?
It is indeed. He's come along, he's continued the good form from Le Castellet here at Snetterton. Joseph Dean just coming across the line, third place overall and third place in Trofeo Pirelli. But here is the leader in the Copper Shell category, coming through the final corner for the last time. Christopher Baton has done a superb job out in front. He pushed Manuela Gosner all the way as she comes fourth place overall. It's fifth place across the line, but it's the Copper Shell win for Christopher Baton of Grey Paul Nottingham. Superb drive from him.
Brilliant job, as you say, from Christopher Baton. Mike Dewhurst next over the line. He will take sixth overall and fifth in Trofeo Pirelli. We've also seen Steve Dobson for Maranello Sales over the start-finish line. He will finish second in Copper Shell, and William Bolster now over the line. Eighth overall, but more importantly, rounds out that Copper Shell podium. The final two we're waiting for is Sean Rann and Andrea Samanara, the pair of those two supported by HR Owen. But Gilbert Yates, your overall and Trofeo Pirelli winner of race number 1 of the weekend. You cannot ask for more when returning to the UK, especially here at Snetterton. So those, the Gilbert and Bradley Yates, father and son pairing side by side as they go down the Brentley Straight. A very apt image for both of them to show. Of course, the cars will return to the pit lane and then go under parc ferme conditions. Prior to that, obviously, hopefully we can get the race results and then be able to hear from the drivers, as Dave Richardson will be down there ready to chat to our winners. But Christopher Baton, what an opening few races we've seen from him. New to the car, new to the championship and the challenge that is Ferrari Challenge UK, and that is now 3 wins from 3. He had the fastest lap of the race in that race as well. In terms of Copper Shell, he won race number 2 at Le Castellet, ended up finishing 3rd in race 1. However, that's 3 podiums from 3, 3rd, 1st, 1st in your first 3 races. That is not bad at all. He also took pole position in race 1 at Le Castellet as well. So you can't really ask for more.
You can't, absolutely not. I mean, I would have no idea whatsoever that Christopher Baton hadn't driven the car before. Here are the results on the screen now for race 1 here at Snetterton for the second round of the Ferrari Challenge UK. Gilbert Yates took the win after 18 laps. Bradley Yates was in second, 15.717 seconds behind. Joseph Dean rounded out the podium in third, ahead of Manuela Gosner and Mike Dewhurst. The Copper Shell was won by Christopher Baton, as we mentioned. He was 12.7 seconds ahead of Steve Dobson. William Bolster rounded out the podium for Copper Shell, ahead of Andrea Seminara, Sean Rann, John Turner and Darren Howell, rounding out the field.
So a brilliant race 1 here at Snetterton, as the cars have worked their way down into the pit lane behind us. What a brilliant win from Gilbert Yates. He's already out the car and celebrating with the team. I can see Dave Richardson down there ready to jump in. So Dave Richardson, as and when you've got somebody to chat to, feel free to jump in.
Thank you so much. I just bumped into Claudio. I'm so sorry. Let Gilbert get the balaclava off, the crash helmet and the hands device. And Joe, his trusty brother alongside him here, is like bagman really, aren't you? Hands in the water. Gilbert, what can I say? Absolutely dominant performance in qualifying. You nailed it in the race as well. You must be totally thrilled.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that, because I know he's going to get quicker every race, every weekend. And I was just going out there thinking, right, he's getting more used to the track, he'll be there. But I just get into a groove and I just absolutely found about a half a second lap quicker than everyone, I think.
You were. I mean, the time difference between you and your boy, who, as you say, is just going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. You know that you've got to nail everything fairly early on this season, Gilbert.
I've got to win every race, pole position, and then stop racing next year.
No, don't do that to us. Don't do that. Listen, we're going to see you on the podium on the top step. It will be a welcome return for you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Many, many congratulations. Right, let's try and get our Copper Shell winner right now. Follow me, Alex, my trusty cameraman, as Claudio. Enjoy your lunch. He's there. And Chris Baton then, he's just removing his hands device and also the crash helmet. Stay with me, guys, here, and we'll grab a word with Chris. It's nice to get the raw emotion just as the driver gets out of the car. You can see how well they're looked after and how well they're supported by the engineering team here as well, who, may I say, really took the mickey out of me in the garages earlier on, so don't think I've forgotten that. Chris, many, many congratulations. Please take some water first. You deserve that, because you've just had a 30-minute plus 1 lap race to endure. You deserve to take some water on board. What can I say? There are no superlatives good enough. You nailed it.
It was fantastic. What a great race, and such a clean race. You know, when you're racing so close like that, you need to have good people around you, and they're just amazing competitors.
I have to say, that's one of the huge attractions of the Ferrari Challenge, camaraderie. Of course, you want to beat each and every one of them, but to do it in a fair and reasonable way makes it so much more sporting.
Absolutely, and it is close. It's very, very close. You know, you've only got to look at the stopwatch, so there's nothing in it. And to have that level of racing is just amazing. We're very fortunate, very fortunate.
Well, well done. We're going to be seeing you on the podium. And to Jack and to Jack, who are up there in the commentary studio, I'll see you next for the podium, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dave. Great to hear from our Copper Shell and Trofeo Pirelli winners down there in the pit lane. What a brilliant race we were treated to just a few moments ago. Let's have a brief look back to see how the action unfolded. So down there on the grid, drivers getting ready for their first race of the weekend. Out went the lights and away went the field. A brilliant start by Gilbert Yates, side by side with Bradley Yates. Mike Dewhurst, super aggressive on the inside, trying to work his way through and past Manuela Gosner. Did so successfully to work his way, at the time, up into 4th place overall in Trofeo Pirelli. Copper Shell was heating up at this time as well, but on the run up towards Wilson, for the first time, slightly defensive went Gilbert Yates, and at that point, that was the last time he had to defend for the following half an hour plus 1 lap worth of racing here at Snetterton. Through Agostini, the gap had already started to build from Gilbert Yates, pushing hard very early. Our eventual Copper Shell winner, that being Christopher Baton, he was really starting to push on in the early stages of the race. Andrea Seminara early on was having to defend from John Turner, but unfortunately unable to defend further was Mike Dewhurst with a small mistake on the running towards the bomb hole. Darren Howell pushing hard, unfortunately just getting slightly caught out by Sean Rann, and the plan went out the window for him. Gilbert Yates, whilst all that was going on behind him, was somewhat forgetting about who was behind him and continuing to run away in the lead. As for Manuela Gosner, she was kept honest by that of Christopher Baton, your Copper Shell winner, but eventually the overall win went the way of Gilbert Yates, seeing the checkered flag first and returning to the podium. Taking to the top step of the podium for the second time this season, it was Christopher Baton, the Copper Shell winner. A brilliant first race for Ferrari Challenge UK here at Snetterton, but the podium is being readied and effectively ready for Dave Richardson down there. So just as final... Sorry, go on.
You catch us mid-microphone switch on, Jack. Apologies for that. Right, standing by for the podium then for the first time of asking here at Snetterton. And our first podium of the weekend is going to go by way of our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Round 2, race 1, stand by. Here they come. Taking P3, please give it up for Joe Dean. P2, Bradley Yates. And the old age pensioner is back on the top step of the podium, Gilbert Yates. I was kind of only joking about the pensioner bit. And let's welcome a representative from Charleshurst as well, our Copa dealer. Now, at this point, I can't remember whether we play in the national anthem or not. We don't be doing with any of that. Look at that bunch of great faces up there on the podium. The trophies will be presented by our Ferrari North Europe regional manager, Mr. Federico Pastorelli is here. With the trophy, first of all, for Joe Dean. We stand by for the trophy for Bradley Yates. The trophy right now for Gilbert Yates. And of course the Copa Dealer trophy for Charleshurst. Now we also have a Pirelli trophy for Gilbert Yates. Double bubble for Gilbert there on the top step of the podium. So guys, get together if you will now and hold your trophies aloft. Big smiles all round. And we politely invite Charleshurst to leave the podium. Just leave it to our top 3 drivers up there right now. Lee down there in charge of the photographs, which is why we always take so long. Who's going to win the champagne race? Gilbert Yates. That's proper celebrating. That is proper celebrating. Didn't even need to invite them to do that one. Well done, gentlemen. So we'll just clear up the podium there. So Big Claudio has sorted the podium out, and now it's time for our Shell podium. Taking P3, please give it up for William Bolster. He's back with a rap attack. P2, Steve Dobson. And on the top step of the podium, Chris Baton. And of course, we invite our dealer to be part of the celebrations as well, Grey Paul Nottingham. And it's Federico Pastorelli, once again, our Ferrari North Europe regional manager, to make the trophy presentations. First of all, to William Bolster. Great job done, William. Steve Dobson is P2. And Chris Baton takes the race winner's trophy. And Copa Dealer, of course, going to Grey Paul Nottingham. So, so we invite Grey Paul Nottingham to Scarpa, and we will get our drivers all together in just a mo. So the 1, 2, 3, hold your trophies up high. Big smile, even you, Mr. Dobson.
I was going to say even you, Steve.
And now it's time for champagne. Well, it was definitely Steve Dobson that won the champagne race. So there we have it, live from the podium. That's about it from down here, guys.
Thank you very much, Dave. Great to see the celebrations down there on the podium from our top three in both the Trofeo Pirelli and Coppa Shell. So as the podium celebrations have finished, we can have a look just to see how the championship has changed and evolved since we left Paul Ricard and have already completed qualifying and the first race of the weekend here at Snetterton. Of course, you get a point for pole position, point for fastest lap, and then there's points on the board for the races, as you'd expect. So in terms of how the drivers will line up, and of course this may affect how they choose to approach tomorrow. In Trofeo Pirelli, Bradley Yates continues to lead the way on 46 points. Manuel Agostner 15 points adrift on 31. Gilbert Yates, after the win today, tied third with Joseph Dean on 29 points, and Mike Dewhurst in fifth on 23. Coppa Shell will remain almost as was, but with a few changes a little bit further down. It will continue to be Chris Bayton leading the way on 27 points. It says he leads the championship. Darren Howell in second place, Peter Hunter in third, ahead of Andrea Seminara, Ian Morris, William Bolster, Sean Rann and Hussein Sert in 8th place. So Snetterton continues to provide the sun, and brilliant work as ever from Ferrari this weekend.